Howell, and welcome to the next episode of the Backstory on Marketing and AI. And if you haven't already done so, please visit ProRelevant.com and sign up for more of these episodes and podcasts. And I am the author of the upcoming book, The AI Marketing Machine. And you can find out more information on that at marketingmachine.prorelevant.com. And today I'm interviewing Charlie Grinnell of Right Metric. It's going to be great. He's a sharp guy, and of course, anything to do with metrics for me, that's always a turn on. So looking forward to hearing his perspectives on AI and marketing. But before we get started, let me tell you a little bit about Charlie. He is the CEO and co-founder of Right Metric, and he's a strategic marketing advisor, speaker, and former Red Bull and Aritzia digital lead. Red Bull is what a great brand, and being part of that brand and what they've done. I mean, wow. Charlie, welcome. So good to have you.
Hey, thank you very much for having me. It's great to be here with you.
Yeah, absolutely. So what is your backstory on getting involved in this AI and marketing?
Well, maybe I'll start with marketing and then I think we can get into the AI side of thing. I feel like most marketers will say, I fell into it ass backwards, and I am definitely part of that camp. I find that it's very rare where you meet a marketer who said, well, you know what? I grew up, then I went to marketing school, and now here I am. I always feel like it's this kind of non-traditional journey, and I'm the same way. So I actually got into marketing through video production. So I started through filming. And what I was filming at the time was I was filming my friends who were interested in action sports. So they were skateboarding, they were skiing, they were snowboarding, they were mountain biking or BMXing. And I started to point a camera at them. And, as I was pointing a camera at them, all of a sudden they started to have these sponsors. And those sponsors were going, hey, we need a video for this, that, and the other thing. And then so they'd kind of come to me and go, hey, do you think you could film me a video for one of my sponsors? And I go, what? Now they're going to pay me to go out with you? Amazing. And so I, started to kind of do that, was getting paid to film these athletes. And then as I started to, deliver that stuff to these marketing departments, that was my first kind of interface with marketing. And, then I was getting asked to do more and more types of videos. So, oh, can you film this event? Or, oh, we have this new product coming out. And it just kind of started to snowball from there. But I was mainly sitting on the production side of it. And so, fast forward for 5 years, I've been kind of doing that. We get into, 2011, 2012, where all of a sudden I started to notice that the video that I was making wasn't going to the television or it wasn't going to a movie theater or a DVD. It was starting to go on social. And what I started to realize was, okay, the production stuff doesn't really need to change, but the distribution side of this is changing dramatically. And so I wanted to make that bridge and make that jump into the distribution side because I thought it was really, really important to learn how things are produced and consumed and learn how marketing works. Because once you know how to film something and edit something, you then need to learn the distribution side of it. And so, yeah, I ended up going in house and working on the agency side for a little while. I worked in house at an agency called Invoke, and Invoke is the agency where Hootsuite came from, the social media management platform. So I was there for a bit, and then yeah, I ended up jumping into Red Bull, which was amazing. I was at Red Bull both in Canada and at the global headquarters in Salzburg, Austria. And I got to work with some of the smartest people I've ever met. There's still a lot of them are close friends. A lot of them were at my wedding, which was really cool. And yeah, I got to kind of dive into the world of marketing through a very different lens. And that kind of brings us, into I started this company called Right Metric, and that's where I started to look at metrics and data associated to behavior, right? So I kind of started on this video side. It then started to transition into this distribution side of things. And the way that you start to measure distribution is through looking at numbers. And so that's where I started to kind of dive into, how can I understand the behaviors of audiences? How can I benchmark competitors? How can I learn what metrics to look at from a content perspective to be able to use that to inform future pieces of content? And that's what brings us into AI now, where you're going through all these big, data sets and all this sort of stuff. And I'm not a data scientist. I'm a, video guy by trade. And we started to see, ChatGPT come out, and then you could start to upload spreadsheets with different data sets to them, and you could have conversations with those spreadsheets, et cetera, et cetera. So I think my journey into the world of AI has been a lot through necessity with my day job. I've been focused a lot on personal productivity because I think that's really where the rubber meets the road from an AI perspective is how can I use AI to make myself more effective? And if I can make myself more effective, cool, then how can I use AI to make my organization more effective? And it kind of just starts to cascade from there. So that's probably a long-winded answer, but I feel like most journeys in life are always just that. They're a journey. They kind of meander and go from there. So yeah, it's exciting. We're seeing a lot of crazy things happen from an AI perspective, whether it's video generation, image generation, the speed in which things are able to happen, the different devices it's on, et cetera, et cetera. So I think I view this as a very, very exciting time.
Yeah, it really is, and I love that story. And I think many of us in marketing kind of fell into an ass back or a back ass word, whatever it was. I don't know,
Yep.
but
Yep.
certainly there's everybody's got an interesting story, and I think though too the interesting times. I don't remember who said it, but oh, to what a joy it is to live in interesting times, and AI right now is making everything incredibly interesting.
Absolutely. I mean, what I would just say about that is, what ChatGPT came out in 2022. We're like 3 years into this thing. Imagine being in year three of the radio, or year three of the television, or year three of the light bulb. Like, it's actually like that. Like, I think about, 2010, that was year three of the iPhone, right? Look at where we're at now. And
Yeah.
so I just think about that from like a productivity perspective, both for us as knowledge workers, but more broadly. Like I just think that there are so many applications of this that go outside of marketing. I think this is going to be huge for healthcare, right? Like we're going to be able to cure a lot of diseases because
Hmm.
AI is going to be able to find cures for things faster than we've been able to, right? So I think like we are I don't think we all the hype that's kind of happening around it right now, I don't think we're overstating anything, but it is early. But I also do think that we will look back on this in 10, 20, 30 years and be like, whoa, that was crazy. Like that was a big turning point. We will point back to it like the iPhone, like the internet, like the light bulb, like the television. And so I don't know. I think that's really cool to think about as humans, right? It's hard to read the label when you're inside the jar. So I think it's important to kind of sometimes try to remove yourself from the jar and go, hey, this is a really cool point in history that point in time that we're living through in history.
Yeah, absolutely. And I like that saying, when you're inside the jar, you can't read the label.
It's
That's
true. It's
fantastic. I
true.
love that. Yeah, exactly. So now you've done a lot, it looks like, in Reddit and TikTok. And so what are some of the things that brands can learn from those two channels?
Oh, well, I think I'll start with Reddit first. I feel like with Reddit, Reddit's kind of phrase is it's the front page of the internet. And so the joke that I always make or the phrase how I always explain Reddit to people is, that meme that you're laughing about now, whether it's in a group text or whether you see it on Instagram or whether someone forwards you an email chain with a funny meme, that meme happened 3 months ago on Reddit. And you're only just seeing it now. So Reddit as a platform is really, really interesting. And we use Reddit a lot to mine and get an understanding of um, basically consumer taste and trends because it is a leading indicator of what's going to be popular in the future. And Reddit has published research on this. Our company has published research on this where across industries, oh, this thing popped up on Reddit here, and then here's where it went mainstream. And so it's a really great leading indicator, and it can be used as a signal to mine for intelligence. Now, when I say intelligence, what does that mean? It could be topics and themes worth leaning into. It could be a product. Is there a market here for a specific product? It could be the sentiment around a specific industry. Like there's so many different ways that you can apply that. So when we actually think about Reddit as a platform for our customers, we primarily work in the B2C space. Oftentimes it's how do you actually turn Reddit into an intelligence engine for you as opposed to buying ads on Reddit. Now, the people who work at Reddit are probably sitting there being like, no, Charlie, tell them to buy ads on Reddit. Like, that's how we make money. I think that, sometimes it does make sense for brands to show up there, but oftentimes we're using it as this intelligence layer and using it to create and inform stuff that we're creating across other channels. one of the things, actually, speaking about AI, if you're ever struggling to figure out what kind of content you should create for your industry, do some desk research, find all the different subreddits related to what your business, either product or service, sells, and literally do this. Take screenshots of all those subreddits, upload those into ChatGPT, and say, what are the common pain points or challenges that this audience faces? And it will spit out those things and then create content that solves those. And you can either post that stuff on Reddit, but also use that to create a video on LinkedIn, or use that to create your next batch of creative of Facebook ads or TikTok videos or whatever the thing is. So we view Reddit as just a really great place to capture and start to harness signal. So that's kind of how I would talk
Yeah.
about Reddit. From a TikTok perspective, I can go that way if you want, or if you have questions about Reddit, I'm
Yeah,
happy to
let me
nerd out
jump
about
in
that one
there.
too. Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, I'm I've been on TikTok for a while, and you can't learn enough about it. And but going
Yeah.
back to Reddit though, it's kind of funny. So yesterday I was at a panel discussion, and it had to do with Dove and Unilever, and
Yep.
they were doing some social media research, and they found a desire in social, and I'm sure Reddit was part of it, to have a crumble cookie scented Dove product. And so then they did it, and it turned out that that was the best launch they have ever had in the company for
Yep.
for the whole business. So it was kind of
Yep.
fascinating. So you can learn so much. So tell us a little bit about TikTok.
Yeah. Well, I mean, on that Reddit thing, I believe you. I think that, we talk about getting close to our customers. Where do our customers spend time? On these devices, on those platforms. So you're bang on. Um, Talking about TikTok, what a fascinating platform. And why I say a fascinating platform, number one, 5 years ago, people would say, what's a TikTok? Right? So they'd go, what is this? And then 4 years ago, they'd be like, should we be on TikTok? And then 3 years ago, they said, oh, maybe we should be on TikTok. And then 2 years ago, they go, I'm on TikTok. What do I do? And now it's, you're insane if you're not on TikTok. So it's been really interesting to watch that journey kind of progress, right? For humans, but also for brands. So, we've seen TikTok's usage surge, and we've also seen brand activity surge on TikTok. And what we're starting to see is short form video is starting to replace the television, and it's kind of this like three horse race, right? So we have TikTok, we also have Instagram, and we also have YouTube with their shorts. So I think what's really interesting is TikTok, we saw short form video and Meta was kind of leading this, and then there was Instagram, and TikTok kind of came out of nowhere with its algorithm. And I'll get into the differences as to like why in a second. But I believe it's a three-horse race between those three platforms. And they're constantly duking it out at the top to figure out who's going to reign supreme there. Now, what's really interesting is how each of those platforms work. So when we think about Instagram, Instagram is based off of a social network. So that means, I as Charlie create an account there. And then for me to see what I want to see, I would have to go follow Guy, follow Sarah, follow Brittany. And then that would build an algorithm for me. And then, yeah, based on my content preferences in there, they'd start to insert ads, etc. Cool. So that's Instagram. YouTube, being owned by Google, is primarily underpinned by a search engine. So YouTube primarily is what are people searching for, and you would have to go and seek out because there wasn't actually like a news feed that you could go through. Again, very different experience. And YouTube primarily went, it started with these short, I say short form, 3 minute type videos. Then YouTube really leaned into long form where it was like people uploading, 30-minute videos. And now they have both of those things. They're the world's largest streaming platform, and they now have this shorts thing to rival Instagram Reels and TikTok. So we have social with Instagram. We have search with YouTube. Now TikTok enters the fold, and TikTok is fascinating because TikTok, if we've talked about social search, TikTok is interest based. And what I mean by that, and why I think TikTok is so powerful, is you barely have to give it any input, and it generates this amazingly delightful experience that sucks you in. So I talked on Instagram how I have to create an account. Cool. I create an account on TikTok, but instead of me having to go and say, I want to follow Guy and I want to be friends with Guy, on TikTok, all I do is I start scrolling. And as soon as like a couple swipes, it has found something that I didn't even realize I would like. And it sucks you in. And that is this idea of interest space. And that algorithm is so good at between whether it's they're pulling data from somewhere else or whether they're looking at dwell time or how much do you rewatch this thing or when do they swipe away at whatever fraction, it's engineered in that way. So I think those three platforms, short form video as a whole, is fascinating. So when we talk about TikTok, I think what's really interesting is it's obviously owned by ByteDance and it comes from Asia. We in the West, in North America and Europe, are Luddites in terms of how social platforms are being used, right? We kind of have these mega apps in Asia where it's like, hey, you do your social there, you can do your banking there, you can pay for food there, like all of these different things. And so I think what we're seeing with TikTok right now is just the start. We're just seeing, hey, yeah, we spend time here. This is where we're naturally consuming content, and people are spending a ton of time on that app. I think what's really unique is that TikTok has already figured out behind the scenes that commerce aspect. And so I think as a platform, I'm very bullish on it. And I think most marketers should be very bullish on it because we're just behind Asia. But as North American and Western society starts to catch up, that content and commerce is going to be more and more blended together. And that becomes really, really interesting for marketers. So there's a lot there. I feel like short form video could be its own episode. But I think it's fascinating because the incentives at the top between Meta, TikTok, and Alphabet, YouTube, Google's parent company, like this is big dollars for them. And all three of those companies are throwing a ton of cash at this to kind of be at the top of the jungle gym. And I think that they're still kind of duking it out.
Yeah, fascinating. It is incredible, and I don't know which one to actually spend more time on. So I got lucky. And I don't, the problem with TikTok is you don't know what succeeds. So I don't know, maybe, I don't know, 100, maybe more TikToks on there that I've recorded, and I
Yeah.
don't know, some of them are, you got 10 views, some of them 100, some of them 1,000. And I have one that's at 900 and something thousand views.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
just wish I knew how to repeat that because it just keeps growing. I mean, it's
Yeah.
like every day there's another 1,000 views on there. It's just crazy. And
Absolutely. But I mean, to your point, content is the variable, right? Like I am now a big believer with it used to be, hey, can you make good creative and then can you do the right targeting? And so like and when I think back to, the 90s, it's okay, we made a 30-second spot and then figure out which television channels we should put it on, right? That was the targeting. And then it's like, okay, cool. Facebook ads came around and it's like, okay, I'm going to make some more content and now I'm going to target certain people who, follow the Atlanta Falcons but don't like dogs. Okay, cool. I can start to target like that. Now it's can I just make an awesome piece of content, put it in there, and it finds an audience? And I think that that's like really interesting is like the content is the variable. And so a lot of, our advice and my advice more broadly to marketers is you actually need to treat your organic social media as your R&D lab, as a petri dish. And you actually need to increase your cadence and accept that 98% of the stuff that you make is going to perform like shit. It's not going to do very well. But the reason you do it is for the 2%, to your point, that pops and has like a disproportionate impact. Because two things are going to happen there. Number one, you're going to get a return, you're going to get bang for your buck. And number two, once it pops, throw ad dollars at that. Because if it performed well organically, you bet your ass it's going to perform well with dollars behind it. And so I think that that's like a really, really fascinating thing. And you should be using that as your petri dish to kind of test, then scale from there. And then you can use that to inform your other areas of marketing. So, for example, let's say you record a video that does really well organically. Cool. Throw some dollars behind that and do that there. You should also figure out, hey, could I take that and record a podcast episode about the same structure of that video? Could I write a blog post about that? Could I send an email? Could I, et cetera, et cetera? And so I'm just like, once you capture that signal, that's close to your customer of like, hey, this is doing well, this found an audience. How do you double down on that and recreate all those different touch points in a way that you can kind of capture that attention? So yeah, I think
Yeah,
it's a
wow.
fascinating platform. And one other thing on the topic of AI and short form video, I recently got access to OpenAI's Sora video platform. Have you had a chance to play around with that yet?
Not too much. I've been going to some of the agentic AI apps more now, and
Yeah,
I'm not a video creator like that. I'll record like this, and one of the
yeah,
things that I've run into is an app that'll take a video like this and then break it into 6 or 8 pieces, short form, and then it'll post it automatically to TikTok. And to
yeah.
your point, then, and I didn't hadn't thought about that, is now I can use each one of those pieces to see what kinds of questions people are looking for, and then and like you said, then I'm gonna blast that out. So fantastic! Thank you for that tip.
Yeah, of course. Well, I think, Sora as a video platform is fascinating because you don't need to be a video guy. You just literally need to be able to prompt. And so there's two things actually. So one, Sora basically when you log into it, it looks like TikTok, except all the video content there is AI generated. And so you could write, Charlie riding a horse in Wyoming, drinking, a chocolate milk while being chased by, a 1970s police car driven by another horse. Like I could literally prompt that in and it would create it and I could say, make it look realistic. And it would. Or I could say, make it look like it's done in the animation style of The Simpsons or South Park. And it would. And so, what's really interesting is you're starting to see this barrier for creativity. It used to be, oh, to film something, you need a nice camera. Now it's you need your phone. Well, now to create video, you don't even need your phone. You can take a photo of yourself and type in some prompts, and you can have yourself talking. So, Sora is something that is really, really fascinating to me as a platform. And I think that we're going to see it start to rise in popularity. So, that's one. The other one is called HeyGen, HeyGen. And HeyGen is an AI video platform where you can create an avatar. And so I can upload hours of video, just like this podcast of you and I talking, and it will create a Charlie avatar or a Guy avatar. And then I can feed it a script, and you won't be able to know the difference. And that's today. And so there's a couple questions there. Number one, as a marketer, I get excited about that because I go, we can scale our two. I think there is definitely some societal questions that raises of like if I don't know what's real or not. So I think that's a whole different talk show. But I think again, we are in it's in we're if we're just talking about AI for video creation, we are just in our infancy right now. This is like, really nice cameras all of a sudden becoming affordable for people. And I think like we're about to see, Hollywood get completely disrupted. And what I mean by that is we'll be able to create a movie like The Avengers or whatever for a fraction of the cost because instead of having to shoot and do all these things, we will be able to use AI and you won't be able to know the difference of whether that was AI generated or whether it was shot in Hollywood. Now, again, I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. Selfishly, as a consumer, I think we're going to get to see some great content created.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm taking advantage of that. There's the app that I just started playing with is this thing called Clap, KLAP, and it's the one that slices and dices your
That's
video and
awesome.
comes up with 20 or 30 different things and it automatically posts. And I'm going to take a look at Hey Gen. That is awesome. Thank you for that tip.
Yeah.
The one of the challenges though, I think that we as agencies and marketers have is that there's a lot of pushback, and especially the larger companies are playing it safe and they're kind of like sticking their toe in, or not even their toe, but their toenail, or maybe it's just they're not even touching the water with AI.
Yeah.
And I don't know, it's got to be a problem. What are your thoughts on that?
So I empathize because I think that, as someone who runs his own business and also as someone who has worked in big enterprises, you do have to have a sense of governance from an IT security perspective. So like I'm not sitting here to be like, throw that away, like pin the ears back and let's go and like throw caution to the wind. However, I think that what's really, really interesting is watching different organizations navigate this structurally. So like who's in charge of AI in the organization? Is it a department or is it a function, right? And then, okay, everybody wants to be involved in it, but who has governance over it? Who actually is the arbitrator of truth? Who actually decides who gets access to it? How are we setting all that sort of stuff up? So I think it's tough because it is such a cross-functional thing, and it's going to touch all areas of the business. So I think this idea of like governing by committee is good. It's probably what's needed. However, I hear the word committee and I get hives because that to me just slows everything down. But I also think that that age-old phrase of slow is smooth, smooth is fast, right? And so how do we actually get really, really clear? And this is why I go back to what I said earlier on that like we need to have clear documentation and inputs to be able to go fast. And I can give an example. In my organization, just yesterday, I was on a call with someone on my team and I showed them one of the agents that I had built for myself. And he was like, wow. And it took something that used to take about a day and a half and it does it now in 10 minutes. So amazing productivity gains. And, all of a sudden when you see something, you then can't unsee it. And so the gears are turning and he's like, oh my gosh, this is so exciting. Like, I can automate everything. Like everything the light touches, I can automate. And you're like, okay, hold your horses here. And what I actually did was I showed him how I built it. And in showing him how I built it, I showed him the prompt that was driving it behind. And that prompt was actually generated by my SOP, my standard operating procedure, that was super, super long and detailed. And hey, it's not this, it's that. And here's why it's that, and all of that. Now, that prompt or that SOP was 3 years old and had been constantly updated. So, yes, as I start to automate now, I'm able to do that automation stuff because it's been written down somewhere and it's been captured and it's been stress tested to figure out what are the edge cases and how do I make it so that it doesn't hallucinate or whatever. And so I think about that with many businesses. A lot of these businesses, whether it's a big business or a small business, haven't thought through that lens of documentation. And there's a lot of stuff sitting in people's brains that when an employee walks out the door, that knowledge leaves. And I think it's really, really important for businesses to figure out what is the mechanism we can use to take that stuff out of the employee's head and centralize it so that the business can start to use that as IP to then take advantage of it from an automation perspective. So it's a really interesting thing, and I don't think many businesses have it figured out, candidly, right? Because also the battle is still ongoing. 1 week OpenAI says they're doing this. The next week XAI says they're doing this. The next week Gemini comes out of here. Then Microsoft is in left field. Salesforce is over here. Like you have all of these different people going, hey, what about me? Or oh, that's cool. Watch what I can do. And so I empathize for us as business people because the dust hasn't really settled. We don't really know, like we haven't really plateaued in terms of like this is kind of it. We're still seeing these huge gains month over month. And so I think it's going to be a while yet. And so my advice to marketers and business people more broadly is set up a way that you can test this stuff and constantly be testing this stuff, right? Like you're not going to, and that's part of an investment. You need to be testing this stuff. You need to test it in a way that is structured and secure and compliant for your business. But you can't just sit back and wait. You need to be testing it, but I think you need to test it strategically. So, yeah, I think again, what I just said probably scares the crap out of some people. For me, it makes me really excited because I just think that we are in this point where, there are things that you and I do today, Guy, that in 6 months from now, we will never have to do again because an agent will handle it. That's really exciting.
Yeah,
Now,
yeah,
that scares
absolutely.
some people, but that's really, really exciting. So I think it's definitely a balance. I don't have all the answers to it, but I think that the things that need to be true are you need to test, you need to slow is smooth, smooth is fast, and you need to get very, very specific about what you're automating and why, and also what you're not automating and why.
One thing I think though, and I'm going to push back a little bit, and that is yes, there's definitely a need for a committee because I think, overall you've got to have standards, you got to protect
Yep.
PII, you've got to, do the stuff that is going to, lead to high risk. On the other hand, you need to have the entrepreneur in marketing or in whatever department it is, it doesn't matter, that says, hey, here is this app that's using AI that can give me an immediate ROI, and the risk is not there is no risk, or the HIPAA or the PII is totally protected. We're not putting it out on the internet. We're not doing any of that. and it's operating in a secure environment. So I think there's two parallel paths. There's those things that can give you today an immediate ROI, and then that there's those things that will then transform the whole company to really provide them
Yep.
that next level of AI of ROI. And it may even incorporate those pieces of these little point solutions to be able to drive then overall the business.
Yeah, I agree with you. I don't even think you're necessarily pushing back on me. I'm like, yes, I was just more hesitating on the word committee because anytime I hear committee, I just go, ooh, I can feel the concrete starting to set and everything's starting to kind of grind to a halt. So maybe that was my own internal bias around committees and me just getting nervous.
Yeah, exactly. Now, one thing. Now, I don't. Now, data is always also a challenge, and for me,
Yep.
data, whatever that data is, it could be, structured data, or more importantly, it could be unstructured, textual, or whatever kind of data. And I think the one thing that's really pretty critical is that provides the context for the marketer to be able to do whatever it is they're going to do. So I don't know. Tell me
Yeah.
what your thoughts are there.
So I mean I completely agree with you, and I think one of the things that comes to mind when I think about AI is everyone goes, "Oh my gosh, AI," and they think about it like we're going to the moon, right? So they'll be like, "AI, we're going to the moon." The data is like the launch pad, the vehicle, the suits. Do we have enough oxygen? Is the thing going to be able to take off without exploding? Like, and so I think about it, it's like it's such a critical component that so many people overlook. The reason why, when we think about AI and what it can do for us, the reason why it's so magical is because it can create these personalized experiences. It powers personalization, and we see this in the biggest apps in the world, right? The biggest companies in the world, right? We love Spotify because it's personalized. We love Instagram or TikTok because it's personalized. All of that stuff has personalization at the core. Now, to your point, how is personalization powered? Data, right? Now, the end consumer doesn't think about it like that because they're just like, oh, what's another video that I can watch, or like the new Taylor Swift album, or this song because I listened to the Taylor Swift album. Now they're showing me this artist that I had never heard of. Like that is all powered by data. Now, I think what's really interesting is when we think about that as business people, saying we need to clean and organize our data isn't really sexy. That's not a sexy project internally to get off the ground, but it is mission critical to be able to actually do a lot of the sexy stuff that we've been talking about. So again, I think about that example that I just gave where I showed someone on my team an agent that I had built. They're like, "Oh, wow, that's amazing." And then I showed him behind the scenes of like what actually powered that, which was the prompt and the instructions. Same thing from a data perspective. I could show this really sexy automation that I've done. And it's like, well, yeah, it needed all these data sets, and these data sets needed to be organized in this way or prompted in this way so that an agent could go in, take that unstructured mess, make sense of it, and generate this output from it. And so, yeah, I think it's what we're going to see probably is I've said we're just in the infancy of AI. Why I think we're in the infancy is there's a whole bunch of data cleanliness and organization and engineering that just needs to happen just to get the stuff set up. And I can speak about that in our organization. We spent the last year and a half building a data warehouse, and a lot of it is unsexy. But the stuff that it enables, I would argue, is very sexy because it's allowing us to do things way faster, way cheaper, and also iterate and create net new things over top of it.
Yeah, absolutely. And that is one of the challenges is the unsexy stuff of putting together a data warehouse. As soon as somebody says data warehouse, it's kind of like, oh my God, there's going to be a
You can
committee
see their
here.
eyes glaze over.
Yeah, exactly. I could go on forever with you. I mean, and I think we're going to have to do a second and a third and a fourth session, but I'm going to have to cut it here. But I do want to I want two sentences from you on a question which I think is critical, especially for younger marketers. And that
Mm.
is, what advice would you give a younger marketer as they're now trying to get into the industry? And they are basically, competing against AI.
Yeah, so I think first read a ton. Readers are leaders. Um, I don't have a business degree. I don't have a marketing degree, and I think a big part of the way that I've been able to learn is I was a hoover for information. And so I still am constantly reading. I have blocks in my calendar to just read and consume information. I think it's really, really important. Now, the second piece, because you said two sentences, the second piece is test and learn. Get your hands dirty. So, what I did in the early days when I was looking to learn, I would read about a ton of stuff and then I created an Instagram account. I created a fake brand page so I could test things. And when I say test things, I was like, oh, what would happen when I post this? I want to look at see how the formatting looks like. I want to see what does the format look like on a laptop versus a tablet versus my phone. And so for me, it's two things. It's read and then test. I think most people actually get caught in analysis paralysis, and all they do is they read all the different things and then they sit on their hands and they don't do anything. And I think that you need to put those two things together. You need to be reading and learning and seeing what's happening. And then you need to put that to use and test and make mistakes and break things and go from there. That would be my biggest piece of advice, is read and test. Because I
Yeah,
think that if you can read and you can test, you're going to be in a really great spot to be able to start to use AI to accelerate your career.
yeah, now those were two very long sentences. But very valuable, and I really like, I mean, your point is right, is you have to not only be better than your peers, but you've got to be better than AI, and you've got to have that creativity. And I like the second part, the first part is then reading and just having that knowledge base. And then the second part is test and learn, test and learn. Charlie, I'm going to have to cut it there short, but thank you, thank you, thank you. This was awesome. I learned a lot, and I'm definitely going to play with Hey Jen and Sora, and play with Clap if you want to take care of
I
some
will.
interesting stuff and go from there. So, how can folks reach you and learn more about you and your company?
Yeah, so the best way to find me is on LinkedIn. So type my name into LinkedIn. I'm very active there. I publish a new video every day. So I practice what I preach. I'm constantly putting stuff out there, and if it sucks, leave a comment and tell me that it sucks. So yeah, I'm most active on LinkedIn. I also have my email on there. You can slide into my DMs if you ever have any questions, or you can shoot me an email. And then Right Metric is just rightmetric.co. We have a ton of resources on our website, and yeah, always happy to chat with interesting marketers who are working at consumer companies doing big things. So yeah,
Yeah,
thank you very much for
fantastic.
having me.
Thank
It's
you.
been awesome.
Absolutely. Rightmetric.co, rightmetric.co. Charlie, thank you so much. And then to the audience, please stay tuned for many other videos in this series on the backstory of AI and marketing. And if you'd like to get more information about my upcoming new book, go to marketingmachine.prorelevant.com. Charlie, thank you so much. Really appreciate it.
Thank you very much. Can't wait until the next one.
Absolutely, and we are definitely going to do that, man. I'm excited already for that.